Hello everybody, welcome back. So the thing I want to talk to you about today is slightly different to what I normally do, but I want to start doing more of these because I'm getting more and more amps coming in. The more I repair them, the more people sort of trust that I can repair things and I'm not going to blow them up. So today I want to talk to you about this. It is a Bassface Db2.1. From my understanding, it retails at about $76.99. That's what the Bassface manual says. It is a 2-channel, from my understanding, full range amp. So it will do everything. It will do your subs, it will do your mids, it will do your doors, everything like that. It is a class AB amplifier, so you would imagine the quality should be of a higher standard than that of a class D amp, but let's have a look inside and see what we get. So at first glance, you can see you've got your standard 0.2 volt to 6 volt gain, your subsonic, your bass boost, your low pass and your high pass filters, and your output for if you wanted to run two sets of amps. Then Bassface have put some decals on the side, which essentially mean nothing to most people, but you know, good for them. On this side of the amplifier, you've got your LED, which tells you whether you're on or in protect or anything like that. Excuse the wiring for the moment, this one's on for repair. A fuse, it doesn't tell you what rating the fuse is. I've put a 25 amp in, which is probably slightly too high, and then both of your channels. The amp itself has a very small form factor. As you can see, it's not a huge amount bigger than my hand, so if you're just looking to power your doors, this probably isn't a bad way to go for the retail price. Now inside, you may look at this and think, oh, there's a lot of extra space in there, and there is. There's no way around it. However, this space doesn't necessarily need to be taken up by much because this amp is only rated to a very low amount. So on the inputs, we have your standard MOSFET design, which is run by a TL494 chip, which is used in 99% of most modern amplifiers. These are your rectifiers, and these are your output transistors. Now these are transistors, not output MOSFETs, because this is a class AB. Some class ABs do use output MOSFETs, but this one is choosing to use transistors for whatever reason. Now, as far as build quality goes, it's not the worst. It's not the worst thing in the world. So this transformer creates, I think, positive and negative about 24 volts. There's 48 volts of voltage to be used here. You've got a small little inductor over here, and then your rail capacitors to hold the voltage. There's not a huge amount of filtration going on. There's some, but not a huge amount. But then again, this amplifier is so cheap, you don't really need it. And I think in most modern cars, with the technology you have coming from your head units, which will filter out quite a lot of the noise anyway, you may not necessarily need it. Now you may look at this amplifier and think, you're not going to get a very big cable on there. Well, they actually only specify that you should use a maximum of 8 gauge, which I believe you can get a fork plug for, which will fit on there very nicely. Now this amplifier only claims to do about 200 watts RMS. And looking at the insides, realistically, if we've got 45, 46, 48 volts of rail, we should do the best part of 200 watts RMS. Now, as far as the impedance goes, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe these are only down to 2 ohm stable, which means you do not run these amps at 1 ohm. If you do, you'll either short these or more likely blow these up. And God knows what other damage you could do to the whole drive circuit in the middle here. So do not run this amp at 1 ohm. In terms of cooling, you will notice that this amp has almost nothing to activate airflow coming through it. Now, we have vents here and vents here, but there is no fan across either side to keep this thing cool. So I would absolutely recommend getting yourself a fan or building something to keep this thing cool, because as we know, this is a class AB amplifier, and class AB amplifier run hot as hell. Now the manual, interestingly, says that you should put a 25 amp fuse in it, which is what I've done here. However, if you actually do the maths and you look at it, it makes more sense to put a 20 amp fuse in for your own safety, because a 25 amp fuse is going to allow the amp to get substantially hotter than what it should optimally work at. I mean, it's only 5 amps, so it's not a massive difference, so they're going to blow either way. But realistically, I would put a 20 in, and if that blows, just put another 20 in. You keep putting bigger fuses in, all you're going to do is make them harder to blow, and then you're going to start killing these, killing these, killing this, killing this. Well, you won't kill them, but then you'll start damaging all of this, and then it just becomes an absolute wanker to repair. So what I'm going to do now is something I do not advise you do unless you know what you're doing with amplifiers, is I'm going to take this thing out of its heatsink and have a look at the traces on the underside of the board. Although with one hand this is proving difficult. So what this allows me to do is you can tell the quality of the PCB that's been made, and you can see how much solder they've put in, how cleanly the solder is all made, which tells you how much care and how, you know, how the quality or control levels that are put through in the factory. So this amp hasn't been repaired before, and we can see straight away this is a very cheap PCB, which is the board here that I'm talking about, because it is extremely flexible. Now most of them are, but not over such a short surface area. But with such a budget amp, and when it's in the heatsink, that's not really a problem. However, I would advise mounting this somewhere where it will not be able to vibrate, because if you put this somewhere it can vibrate, you're going to end up killing things. So really, if the question you're asking yourself is, should I buy one of these? Maybe. Like, I'd go second hand. I probably wouldn't buy it new, because for the 70 odd quid you're going to spend on this new, you can get something that's a hell of a lot better second hand. You can get a lot of Alpine stuff second hand for 70 quid. So if someone offers you this for like 20-25 quid and you want something, yeah, fine, it'll do. But bear in mind, it is not worth repairing. Like this one, for example, has drive circuit problems. And because it is such a cheap amp, I did the things that you would normally do to try and get rid of a drive circuit problem, and they didn't work. Therefore, this amp is essentially worthless. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.